people chiming in on the poll. 24. 4 persons said, and the question was, should primary school students revert to online learning in light of the rising cases of COVID across TNT? That was our question this morning. 24 persons responded. 4 persons said no, they should not return, but 20 persons said yes, they should return to online learning.
All right. Gary Griffith, good morning. And what says you should, with regarding to our morning poll?
Is he hearing?
You're on mute, Gary.
He's not even responding, so I'm wondering if he's hearing us.
I don't know. You're not hearing anything? All right, so everything is set on my side. I don't know why you're not hearing
Everything is
anything.
set here, so maybe you could log out.
It's on your. You're not hearing me. Oh, he's calling me. You talk there, Paul.
Right.
Yes, they're talking on the phone, so through the reserve. Have him log off and log back in,
Your
because
mic
everything
is
is all
on
right
now.
here.
All right, you all hear me, folks? Gary? Yeah.
I'm hearing you on my phone. I'll have to use my phone.
And we're hearing your microphone is working.
We're hearing your microphone. Check your volume there, Gary.
Check your
volume is up.
If your volume is up. We're hearing your microphone loud and clear.
Yeah, volume is up. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 3. 1 2 3.
No. Can we do it on my phone?
Is that spyware, Gary? Kicked in?
You're being spied.
He didn't hear us.
I'll do it like this.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Right. Hear me now, Gary?
Yeah, I am. Good morning.
All right. Yeah, hear me. We're doing a fancy thing here. Technology.
Is that the spyware kicked in there?
You heard Paul there, Gary?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm using my phone.
Is that the spyware that kicked in there?
No, definitely not.
You sure?
Positive.
But I know if it's one phone that maybe tapped is yours.
Yes, that is true.
So,
for sure.
So, anyway, good morning, Gary Griffith. Thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
I want to talk about spyware. We spoke to the acting commissioner of police yesterday, who confirmed that he said that the and we're using the term spyware loosely, but of course it's the interception technology, was purchased by your good self and I think I read an article that said it was being tested. Give us a sense from where you sit of what happened where that is concerned when you were commissioner of police.
Sure. Well, the first thing that I am very concerned. Wow, we have a terrible echo here.
Yeah, I think that is from...
Gary, you want to try logging on and logging in?
Yeah, log off and log back on, Gary.
Okay, I'll call you back.
Yeah, right up. Yeah.
But that just
I don't know what's going on. Something on
his
his
not
end.
just use the phone by itself, Steve.
If not, I'll just call him directly.
Because that is odd. I much suspect he has a sound output issue, because we're hearing his microphone loud and clear, so it's not a connection issue. It doesn't seem to be a connection issue.
Yeah, maybe somebody tapped into his computer.
Maybe they forgot to unplug him when they plugged in before,
Mm-hmm. Probably something like that.
And he's suffering the effects of that.
Yeah, Richard was going to join us. He popped in here. He looked like he gained a few pounds from the last time I saw him. And that's all I will say about that.
It's astounding that you're always talking about people who are gaining points.
Yeah, because I'm losing weight and everybody else is gaining weight. So
that's mind-boggling to me. That you're always commenting on somebody's weight. It's mind-boggling to me. Maybe it's some kind of psychological psychosis or something you're going through.
No, I actually lost some weight, actually.
I think you lost some weight, yeah.
Yeah. Moving all day just make you lose weight,
You were moving all day before?
Yeah, but no,
Didn't seem to help you?
I'm eating differently. I'm eating more salads, as you know, and more grilled chicken. I don't eat any seafood, so I eat more grilled chicken. I hate bone-in chicken. Ugh. I hate that. People like that? Not me. Not me at all. So I eat more salads and grilled chicken and try to eat properly a little bit. I'm quite active, so
right. Gary Griffith is entering the room.
He is, and he's calling me on his phone. So let me see what's happening there. Are you hearing me now, Gary? Not on the phone.
Yes, clearly.
On the computer?
Right.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. When in doubt, reboot.
Log out.
Yes.
Log out. When in doubt. There you go. All right. So welcome and good morning to you once again, Gary Griffith.
Yes, good morning.
Much better.
Yes, Honorable. So the first thing I would like to say is that this has gone totally out of control on both sides of the political fence. Never before have I have worked on many occasions with international agencies around the world, and we have never seen politicians get involved so much in dealing with intelligence gathering and interception. It has reached a point now where I'm hearing opposition senators demanding they would like the government to give the details of what is the spyware and how it is used and how much can be done. And then you have the government trying to justify why it is being done. This is totally incorrect. The only reason I got involved was because the Prime Minister made 3 false statements in Parliament where he stated that this was acquired without authorization, that he did not know about it. And also the fact that that they ordered me to hand it over to the SSA. Those 3 things were totally incorrect. So yes, I did acquire the equipment, and I will obviously, unlike other politicians, I am not going to reveal the details of this type of equipment. It is irresponsible. It is very reckless. And what I can say, it was done. And what was important, Paul, I think you're muted. Paul, you're on mute.
Paul, you're on mute. Hold on. Paul, mute, unmute.
I was on a call here. My bad. Apologies.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
So
yes, it seems to have been politicized significantly. This, as we indicated with the acting commissioner yesterday, interception of communication technology is not. It's not unthinkable that it be utilized by national security sectors in any country once it's done within the law and for the right reasons. Am I wrong with that?
Correct, and therein lies the problem. You see, this started in 2009, where the then PNM government, they utilized interception to look at more so political opponents, inclusive of the phones of Keith Rowley, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, Winston Dukaran, Gary Griffith, and 40 others. The Interception of Communication Act came in because of that in 2010, but it was drafted in I think, an inappropriate manner, because 3 persons could sign: the director of the SSA, the commissioner of police, or the chief of defense staff. But we do know that the SSA is a politically appointed unit. And for it being done in that manner, it was inappropriate. What I can state, and I want to put calm to the country right now, I have full confidence in the present SSA, the present SSA director. I could put my head on a block that he will not be abused. He will not abuse the system or be politically manipulated. But we do not know if he'll be there tomorrow. And the point is that is why I set checks and balances to ensure that for this equipment to be used, it must have the approval of both the Trinidad Police Service and the SSA. For Mr. Jacob to remove it to the SSA on the 10th of September, when he was just the acting commissioner, I was supposed to return in a week's time. What will give him that confidence to make such a drastic decision unless he was directed by a politician or he knew I was not coming back? And therein lies the problem, because we have seen that these systems can be manipulated if it is politicians decide to handpick persons who they choose. We saw it with Patrick Manning selecting someone who was close to him in his church to be in charge of the SIA. We saw Kamala Prasad-Bissessar with Rishmi. We then saw Eddie Dillon as the minister appointing someone in charge of the SSA who had absolutely no experience of any degree in intelligence gathering, and he was in the defense force for 20 years. We have seen a senior government official try to influence me to appoint a junior constable to be in charge of the equipment in the police service. So we have seen on occasions politicians in this country try to manipulate the process, which is why I put the checks and balances to ensure that if this is to be used, both the police and the SSA must have direct approval. For Jacob to shift it across, it must raise red flags.
But you mentioned that the present director of the SSA, in which you vouch for his integrity, basically, and you put your head on a block for him, is appointed by a politician. So essentially is the police commissioner.
Correct. But it eliminates the law of probability, that both of them can be influenced at the same time, because this is what we have seen at this time, where the person who's acting as the commissioner of police, the prime minister did not want the persons who placed first to 7 in the merit list for commissioner, which is why he scrapped the whole merit list. The merit list wasn't scrapped because of Gary Griffith alone. He didn't want any of those 7. He wanted Jacob. So scrapping the whole merit list allowed Jacob now to act, because he didn't even apply for the post, because he knew that most of them had defeated him 3 years ago anyway. So you are correct. But for you to have full control, you must have direct influence of both the commissioner and the director of the SSA. So this is why it is I said, let me ensure that the SSA would have some degree of authority and responsibility, because when I knew that I wouldn't be there forever, and when a senior government official was trying to direct me to influence me to put a junior constable in charge of this equipment, obviously it raised red flags to me. So that's why I asked for it to go across to SSA. But by sending the whole thing to SSA, who's to say tomorrow the same individual might not be removed and they put in someone who becomes a puppet to the government? This is very dangerous, and obviously it would raise red flags. It is not to state that it is being done. I also have my own information that this equipment has still not yet been used. So let us put a degree of calm in the country to get this perception. Whereas the opposition is trying to insist that it is being used, I can say that it has not yet been used. There are other pieces of equipment that have been used for interception before. This equipment, however, it has, from what I've gathered, it has not yet been used, but it should not have been transferred directly to one. You listen to the Prime Minister.
What equipment, just what equipment did you purchase? Why did you purchase this? And was there need for any higher authority to approve it? I don't know what the protocol is.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. The Commissioner of Police is the accounting officer. The Minister of Finance continues to mislead the country. It's the PNM's game plan. They appoint people in committees and audits and whatever, and then they direct them virtually to state what is to put in the report, and then give it to their ministry of the Ministers of Communication, Ria Tate and Dennis Wren, who will then come and give you just their side of the story. So the Minister of Finance, he put an audit to state that this was done in an incorrect manner. That is a lie, because this went through 20 different branches within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and it was legit. I have on my phone messages from very senior government officials who are fully aware of this equipment, speaking to me as to how it should be used, when it should be used. So Keith Rowley misled the country to state that the government did not know that it was done without authorization, and that he ordered me to hand it over to SSA. All three were that he misled the country. But again, he could see that in Parliament.
What equipment did you purchase? How much did it cost? And what is the name of the equipment? So we're all clear on that.
And therein lies the difference with Gary Griffith and other politicians. Both political parties have absolutely no one trained, qualified, or experienced in national security. So it will be and the same way they have all been irresponsible in babbling about revealing information, making accusations. I will be the last person you're going to get for me to reveal what type of equipment it is, how much it costs, what it is to be used, how it is to be used, how sensitive it is. That is irresponsible. No government in the world should have any law enforcement agency or representative, past or present, give such information to the public. And that is what is the problem. The more information that is being passed, the more it is affecting our national security. So I think the opposition, the Prime Minister, everyone needs to just calm down and stop revealing sensitive information. It is not.
But isn't there a balancing act, though, Gary, between transparency and national security interests, that sometimes you have to reveal some stuff while balancing against the secrecy that may sometimes be necessary for national security issues? But in this particular case, it's about surveillance of citizens, ultimately, and there is an act that governs the process for that. I think what the leader of the opposition is trying to suggest is that, even though she's not really saying it that way, but I suppose what she's trying to suggest is that there is a certain level of abuse taking place with regard to the use of said surveillance equipment. Yeah. And so that it's not following proper due process, which is something that crops up. I think it may have cropped up in her administration too. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I know this issue of spyware, etc., has been around for a while. And has been something that surfaces every now and then.
Wider than spyware, breach of privacy and breach of data protection, because relatedly, the WhatsApp and emails people were getting during an election campaign were also subject to that sort of scrutiny.
Yeah. And ultimately, and just one more thing, ultimately, though, you have it's a civilian government. We're not a military state. So ultimately, politicians are answerable to us. And the more transparency, in my opinion, the better. Of course, you being a national security professional may have a different lens through which you see those things. But to me, the more transparency, the better. And there should be no fear in saying what type of equipment if you're using it via the accredited and due process routes in its use against citizens.
Yeah, you're correct. But except for the fact that if you give information as to the quality, the type, the procedure for the equipment, you have now revealed to the enemy of the state what we have. And that is what I'm speaking about. Because Patrick Manning did it. The Friday before the 2010 general election, he spent $300 million on the Friday before the Monday general election on intelligence gathering equipment through the National Security Council and through the Secretariat. Now, that was done without those things. That things are purchased through the National Security
Council. Is that an allegation or is that a fact?
No, it's fact. It's fact. I was the National Security Advisor, so I saw the bills and everything from the following week. But it gives him that authority. My point being is that you should not reveal the type of equipment, how it can be used, and so forth. I would like really to put up a degree of calm. I can tell you something, Richard. When there's a helicopter hovering over Maraval, persons from Mocha to Adams, persons in Diego Martin from Wendy Fitzwilliam Boulevard to Westmall, persons from Cruising to Westmall will claim that the helicopter is hovering over them. Everyone claims that they have their phone and they hear an echo in the background. Let me put a thing on this. The thing is the echoes you keep hearing on your phone and you're hearing somebody putting down the phone, that's 1980s type of interception. So for everyone who believes that Big Brother is spying on you, this does not help a country because it makes the citizens feel that the whole state is spying on the average citizen. That is not true. The equipment is very sensitive, it's very expensive, and you're not going to tap the phone of every single citizen. So the things you hear about an echo and you're hearing someone in the background, the type of equipment that is there now, when somebody is spying on your phone, you're not going to know. So stop.
Well, they shouldn't be tapping the phone of every single citizen because there's a due process.
But you see, there's that belief. Every citizen, I think there are more citizens believe that the helicopter or the blimp has been hovering over them or their phone is being tapped by Big Brother than not. However, the problem in this country is that our politicians are not patriots. We have seen it. We have seen it from 2009 when it was being used. It was a fact. These things were being intercepted on political opponents of the then PNM government. We have seen the thing with Kamala and Rishmi. We have seen Eddie Dillon and the person he appointed. We've seen the senior government minister. So we have politicians.
But we have to treat it as allegations. You're saying it's fact, but we have no provable evidence before us.
What's that?
So we are going to have to treat it as allegations that you're saying. When you're saying it's a fact that the PNM government at that time was spying on people.
No, it's not a fact. I have the document. Remember, I was the National Security Advisor. We got the readout. The good thing with this equipment is that if your phone is intercepted, it is going to be on the system. It cannot be hidden. So even if the governments change, you can't just say, I could just pick up the equipment and listen to Richard's conversation and put it down and no one will know. Once you go into that system, so this is also to put up calm. If someone's phone is being intercepted, when governments change, SSA directors change or whoever, we can see whose phones will be intercepted. The problem lies, the only thing that could cause a concern is if a politician has control of the persons who have access to the equipment and he could easily say, Paul Richards is an enemy of the state. Let's use an intelligence report to give justification for a warrant to be signed. That is a dangerous precedent, and that can happen, which is why I insisted that it must have both parties agree that if this type of equipment is used, both the police service and the SSA should have the justification and the approval. Keith Rowley made his statement clear. He said this government policy is that only the SSA must be the only avenue for interception. And that must raise a red flag, especially if the SSA is a totally politically appointed unit. That is why I said let the police and the SSA have equal responsibility. So if one wants to use it, the other must approve and endorse it. That would have eliminated the possibility of political abuse.
Well, if the possibility of political abuse exists and you're saying it has existed in the past, which is what you're saying, you can prove it because you have the documentation, yes. Then it means, therefore, that the citizens should have a right that the process should be as transparent as possible because there's already been abuse.
Yeah, but you see, but again,
so that should no longer be hidden. The right for it to be hidden no longer exists because you have just said that it has been abused before.
It has, but again, in 2009, it was not illegal. It was unethical. There was a difference. Anand Ramlogan did the law.
But always have been illegal because there's a right to privacy under the Constitution. So once you're breaching that constitutional provision, it's illegal.
No, it's not, Richard. You see, the point is that anyone, whether you're in national security, you could always say Richard Ragoobarsingh is an enemy of the state based on intelligence, and it gives justification. And therein lies the problem. How do you verify intelligence from rum shop talk just to use as an excuse to macro the conversation of your political opponents? That is where the thin line will lie, because you can't just say, well, if you have contact with the person who has authorization and you are the politician and you and that individual are friends, say, listen, I want to go after Gary Griffith's phone, so let's just do a report to say intelligence has revealed that Gary Griffith is a terrorist, and that gives justification.
Well, if the justification is so easily polluted, then the state should have no right to any such spyware.
Good point, but the disadvantage to that is that the value of this spyware protects the country from terrorism and major criminal activity. So I do agree with you, and that's why it's a balancing act. The balancing act has now tilted because we have politicians on both sides that do not understand national security. They work on politics first before what is good for the security of the nation.
Mm. And in our news item, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar said, according to some report from 2016 or 2017, that there were over 700,000 interceptions. Is that a real figure, and is that reasonable? Is that real?
No, again, she is probably getting information, and I'm not going to question what she's saying. I am not going to challenge it. I think it is inappropriate for me to reveal the findings of what is done in national security. And that is why I have to be very careful that I must not, and I mean, even the Prime Minister, in his zeal to defend what was being done, he started explaining that about phones being used in the prisons. There's no need to do that. Both sides have politicized this matter to the extreme, and the point that it is now it is causing two things. Criminal elements to be aware of what is happening. Even the opposition actually explained what should be done to prevent your phone from being intercepted. That doesn't help national security. And the other thing is, it is causing more panic and fear within the average law-abiding citizen to believe that they now are being spied upon by Big Brother, which again goes back to the point, Richard. I had a simple procedure to say that, listen, let there be checks and balances. Why was that removed? Why were the checks and balances removed to be handed over directly to one unit? And I'm not saying to the public to be fearful now, because I said at this time, the SSA, I am confident that the SSA is not abusing the system. But we do not know what could happen in the next week, because I've mentioned 4 examples where we've seen senior government officials handpick persons who may not be the best persons for the job, but because they are closely aligned to them. And that is a dangerous precedent. You don't get these problems in Langley. You don't get these problems in the MI6. But because we have the banana republic mentality that we have something that is sensitive, that can be used for national security, but let us use it for political benefit. And therein lies the problem. We have politicians, sometimes on both sides, that do not understand that this software is to be used for national security purposes and not to go after criminal elements. You hear Keith Rowley. Keith Rowley says, this here is to be used for criminal elements, the spyware. But in his case, this man continues to be judge and juror in matters. In his view, he may believe that every single person opposed him is a criminal. So it is not for him to decide how it is to be used.
Well, that's a little exaggerating, a little exaggerated kind of description of Dr. Rowley and his approach. Well, I shouldn't say a little exaggerated. That's severely exaggerating.
Every time he speaks about the UNC, he says they corrupt, they thief. That's what he does. In his mind, everything with the PNM is clean and everything outside of the PNM is dirty. The man wants to control the country, but he hates half of the country. Keith Rowley spends more time speaking about.
Why would you say he hates half of the country?
Yeah, because
why would you say stuff like that?
Richard, have you ever seen Keith Rowley on a political platform? He stays calm and controlled. And as soon as you use those 3 letters UNC, he starts to bubble, he starts to weave, he starts to shake and bake. He gets totally out of control, which is in line with what Patrick Manning said. The man, he spends more time speaking about Gary Griffith than anyone else. And I would like to take this opportunity to tell Keith Rowley that I am flattered, but I am married. He needs to forget about Gary Griffith, everything on his mind. He went into Parliament and brought my name into this bacchanal, and it was not necessary. He misled the Parliament by stating that I did it without approval, I acquired it without their knowledge, and that he gave me an order to hand it over to the SSA. He continues to be misled by an individual who is not very old, and that individual continues to cause false information fed to our Prime Minister, and he in turn will now mislead the country as he has.
Well, I know you are maneuvering into the political arena, And so I will want to contextualize about a lot of what you're seeing as political boxing. And that as political boxing between you and the current prime minister. So I don't really want to get involved in that.
Because he's now an active politician.
But so I'm just trying to focus on the issues of transparency, maturity in terms of the state officials in handling sensitive information and handling the proper route in surveilling citizens and making sure that that's kept to and not polluted. And how do we hold public officials to that level of maturity? Because you're saying, from what you're saying this morning, I'm not talking about all of the Dr. Rowley and all of that is just political bush in my mind. I'm just talking about the issue of how polluted the system has been, according to what you have said, and how it potentially can be, depending on who's in power. So how do we prevent that from a national security perspective?
The only way, Richard, and you hit the nail on the head, because I think Paul mentioned it. If it is that 3 persons could be appointed to be the only persons give authorization to intercept, all 3 persons are politically appointed. The chief of defense staff, you could bypass the top 4 persons and select the 5th person. I remember Brigadier Alfonso. He was the 5th most senior person in the defense force. It was a good call because I think he was the best in the business at the time, but that was a political appointment. The commissioner of police, someone could top the merit list, get the highest grading, reduce crime. And
is he frozen? Did the spyware kick in?
That's where the spyware kicked in.
Intercepted.
Yeah, that was an interception.
Right there, boy.
And look at it. Look at the face. That is the face of interception.
That is the face of
That is
interception.
the face of interception right there. So now we know what it looks like.
That is the other one. That is Predator.
That's what it looks like.
Predator, grab him there, boy. Stop. Mid-sentence, yes?
Yeah, mid-sentence. You shall no longer,
We're tired of you this morning. We're tired of you
You
this
shall
morning.
no longer be speaking.
So log off and log back on, Gary, if you can.
You have been hacked. Damn. So, of course, our apologies. We got a break in transmission with regard to Gary Griffith. Apparently, his Wi-Fi decided to not cooperate with him in continuing the conversation. So we're going to try to see if we can relink with him and
But he'll log back on shortly, I'm sure.
hopefully he should log back on.
He more than anyone else would realize he's been
hacked.
Spyware.
But I mean, the conversation is so. And I get the lens through which Gary Griffith sees these things as a national security professional. But I'm a civil rights advocate down to the core. So I believe that the state needs to be as transparent as possible with all of these things.
Because as you said earlier, Richard, there needs to be a balance struck.
But I'm just saying the fact. Yeah, that you can say what your spyware is. But you need to also indicate, you need to also keep to the rules for its use.
The personal button, you plenty boy Gary Griffith.
Yeah, boy.
Yep, story of my life. So let me just say quickly, Richard. So that therein lies the problem. At this time, I do know the chief of defense staff cannot be politically controlled. He's what you call in the military, my batch. He and I joined the defense force together. He went the wrong way and joined Coast Guard. I went Army. Then you have the director of the SSA, who's also my batch. He and I joined the Army at the same time.
But let me interrupt you here, because you are giving opinions on who you feel can or can't be politically motivated, and that's just your perspective.
Well, that is all that I can do at this time. I can only give based on the character of the individuals who hold the office.
And again, that's your perspective, and you are now a political agent, so you are speaking as a political agent.
No, well, again, no, I am speaking as someone who was the commissioner of police and who has good knowledge of the persons who hold those offices.
And is now a political agent, Gary. You can't get away from that confluence.
No, but Paul, if that is the case, then it means that the 3 persons who hold the position now should all be removed because they have been appointed by a political agent. So when would it stop? When would it stop to start?
The point.
So that's the point.
My challenge is that you are making statements about whom you feel can and cannot be politically motivated. And that's great, because you have the right to your opinion. but someone else may share a different opinion on who can and cannot be, and where will it end? Who has the facts?
No, Paul, no, but you see what I'm saying at this time, what I do not want is to cause undue panic in the country because of what is happening now. The 3 persons who have the access to intercept are all political appointees. And I can, if I do not say this now, based on my view of the character of the individuals, it can give the perception that because these 3 persons are appointed by politicians, they are going to abuse the process. I think it is right for me to at least state the individuals that I know, because I joined, all 3 of us joined the military on the same day, at the same time. And I could speak on the character of these other 2 individuals. So that is all I can do. If you can take it or not take it, my point being is that tomorrow they may leave. And I just think the process is improper, that you can have 3 persons who have access to intercept, and then they now can easily be appointed by politicians who will now say, listen, I put you there, you now need to state that my political opponents, I want their phones intercepted. And it is important.
I think the checks and balances need to be more robust than that, because obviously it seems, going on what you have said, let me preface it by saying that, Gary, going on what you said in the system being prior to this recent configuration, the system has been polluted and abused, and so the potential exists, then it means we need to find a different way in how people are appointed to these positions. And it has to go through maybe a sort of vetting process, like what the United States does in terms of like Supreme Court justices or different positions. They have to go through a vetting process by the Senate. And I'm saying maybe we need to move to some sort of position, some sort of way like that, to ensure that people of integrity are the people who are in these positions that keep to the letter of the law and that cannot be maneuvered via politicians applying pressure. So there has to be some security of tenure, because only security of tenure can prevent things like that. So I know I can't be removed if I give you opposition. But we need to be more intelligent and mature about how we handle the checks and balances on these sorts of issues. Else, when we go further down the road, it might be whoever else in power. I know you think, well, maybe it might be you and your party, but whoever else is in power, the conversation comes up again and says, yeah, look, X, Y, and Z is, abusing.
What is interesting is that is exactly what happened, because when it is that a senior government official was trying to harass me and intimidate me to appoint a junior constable, security of tenure went out the window, because they realized Gary Griffith was not going to sing for his supper. He's not going to be a political puppet. I was making decisions what was right for the country. So when I said that this is not going to happen, this person must not hold that post. I have serious issues if it is that you are trying to put $40 million into an account and then direct me to hire persons, make them police officers to target specific political opponents. Security of tenure went out the window. The Prime Minister then says, you see this guy? Okay, time to remove the merit list and let's put somebody who will do what we want them to do. So that is what happens in the Banana Republic. So
wait. Are you saying, let's backtrack a little bit. Are you suggesting, or are you saying that the current administration, when you were Commissioner of Police, asked you specifically to target political opponents?
Yes, it was. I'm speaking about as it pertains to the court matter with $40 million was directed to me, given to me, and said that it must be used to hire specific attorneys in the United Kingdom. I am to make them police officers, and they must only go after certain cases involving political opponents. There's a degree of ethics. Now, I can't do anything against it because I'm the Commissioner of Police, but I had issues. You see, I have issues if a senior government official is telling me to appoint a junior constable to be in charge of the same sensitive technology we now speak about in this matter. Those things I had issues with. And so if you have a government that wants to manipulate the process, that's the first sign of dictatorship is a government that is trying to control the police service. And in this situation, going back to Paul's point, with the 3 persons who are appointed are all political appointees. It is very dangerous. However, I still want to insist at this time, Paul, because I may be a political aspirant, but I hold no authority to try to, it values me little of the persons who hold the posts, other than to let the country know. I don't want to put panic in the country for them to believe that there's a massive conspiracy with 3 political appointees in Jacob, the SSA director and his chief of defense staff, that they are just macking everyone's phones. This is not what the country needs. It's not what the country wants. And why are you saying
McDonald Jacob is a political appointee?
But he is, and that he was appointed based on that.
But he was appointed by the Police Service Commission.
No, let's get back. There was a merit list with 7 persons. The Prime Minister, they interfered with the process by removing the whole merit list. If he did not want Gary Griffith, he could have selected number 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. He ignored all of them because that is the person they wanted. That is the point.
But he's still appointed by the Police Service Commission as acting commissioner. He's not appointed. He's not appointed.
But it goes back to political manipulation of a flawed process.
Well, that's the lens through which you see it.
No, but that is what happened, Richard. If there's a merit list with the top 7 and you have a concern with one person, why move the whole merit list? Because you wanted the person who will be the most senior to act, rather than those earlier Christopher, Norton, Wendell Williams. All of these persons would have acquired higher grades than Jacob had he applied, which is why he did not apply. So the government realized, scrap the whole merit list to get the person that we want to act. Stevie Wonder could have seen through this.
Well, that's the lens through which
but this is the fact, Paul. This is exactly what happened. It's not the lens.
Well, we have a series of events, and different people choose to put it together in different ways. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but it takes a certain level of inference and implication.
But Paul, if that is the case, again, this was Keith Rowley with Gary Griffith. If you did not want Gary Griffith, the merit list just had to come to Parliament, bypass.
Which is my assertion from the start.
And that's why there's no other excuse.
There was no reason for somebody to go to the president's house and all of that. Because in the past there have been people who were on top of the merit list and they were rejected and they went down to 2 or 3 or 4. That has happened over and over again.
So why scrap all 7? Because the person you wanted was not in the 7. So you scrap the whole thing to get the man that you want to act. And now
but that entire process is also that entire process of selecting a commissioner of police is also suspect, because if it is that you truly believe in the independence of the recruitment process, and
you should just choose one,
and the recruitment process says
that's
this
number one is number one.
First,
exactly.
Then there's a reason.
It goes back with the whole PSC. Who appoints the PSC? The president. Who appoints the president? The government. So the government tells the president what to tell the PSC to do. And I can tell you why, Paul, what you just mentioned. The last 2 PSCs have shown that they were biased or based on being controlled. The first PSC in 2018, I got the highest number of points. I defeated everyone in all 8. And if that PSC that was appointed by the UNC, it seemed that they were briefed. They said, look, Gary Griffith got 81.74%. Stephen Williams placed second with 76. Put Gary Griffith 4th. I was placed 4th, even though I got more points in every single one of the 8 assessments. And then you come back now to 2021, I got more points than everyone else, stop the merit list, and then the government will say, look, let's move the merit list because that's not the person we want. So it shows that the whole process is flawed. The PSC is just...
if it's so subject to manipulation, it's terribly flawed.
It is. Because just 2 PSCs have done the same thing. One appointed by the UNC and one appointed by the PNM. And both of them seemed that they were influenced. Well, not influenced. Blissy Prasad did it. She got instructions or was influenced, and she pulled back a merit list without any reason to do so. And the same thing with the first PSC under the UNC. Somebody placed first, and then you place them 4th without any reason for doing so.
We're heading up to 8 o'clock. So we talked about spyware. We talked about merit list. Let's talk about the National Transformation Alliance a bit and how that's coming along.
It is difficult for me to say much at this time until everything is approved by the EBC. Hopefully in a day or 2, I could give the assurance that the next time I speak to you all, I will have the confidence and the capability to say more. I can't say much about it. I can't even speak about the NTA until it is approved by the EBC. And as soon as that happens, then I'll be able to speak as a politician. And this time I'm speaking solely as a previous commissioner of police.
All right, so you have aspirations to be to have a political party. You certainly have just confirmed you've applied to the EBC for the approval, for the name, the logo, etc., the normal run-of-the-mill stuff. What do you hope to accomplish with this party?
For the country to actually believe that we can change politics. We have seen it for far too long. 60 years. We continue for the regurgitation of the same thing. We have reached a point where for the last 3 decades, no political party can stay in government for 2 full terms as yet. And it says something. It says that something has gone wrong. What we're starting to see is that as years go by, Paul, the quality of the persons, not independent senators, I'm speaking about the politicians in the political parties, the standard continues to diminish. And we have reached a point where we have voted in governments based on the lesser of two evils. We have voted in governments to say that maybe they are not good, but I can't vote for this one. That should not be the case. What we intend to give is a type of politics that this country has never seen before. We are not going to be spending time, and then you will see it with the two major political parties, spending more time saying about, let's play a catch here, going on the platform, disgracing the other one, a character assassination. We intend to show plans, policies, people, programs, things to make this country better. I intend to, the party, we intend to move and try to embrace as many people as possible. This is not about, you might be a PNM member, but you could be an NTA supporter, because sometimes, up to this day, some people still believe Eric Williams is still alive. So there's some people you can't change. We think right now the youth vote, those persons under 40 and below, many of them have never had the opportunity of a bridge constituency. I'm not going to say a third, a constituency where we could cross that divide of the racism, of the racial politics. And that is where these two major political parties, they have basked in that. They've lived to make sure, let's divide and conquer. Whereas they intend to divide and destroy, we intend to unite and build.
So your intention is to contest eventually, if approved by the EBC, all 41 constituencies, local government elections included?
Yeah, definitely, because I think the concern, the hurt, the pain, the need for good politics is across the country. So it's not specific to one or two constituencies. The country is waiting, they're waiting to exhale. People will continue to, I know the one side, the UNC, they will say that this is going to be used to split the votes. I don't know if our vote could be split. The PNM is going to say this is going to be something that will cause them to join with the UNC to cause a repeat of 1986 or 2010. We are not here to help or to destroy any political party. I think there's a major void there of citizens out there that want good politics. They want clean politics. They want to get away from the gutter politics. And that is what we intend to provide.
It's interesting that your proposed name has alliance in it. And knowing you, the name wasn't thought of in a cavalier manner. Does the alliance in the NTA mean that you're open to amalgamation with other like-minded political entities?
The main thing of the word alliance is to embrace, and that is the type of political change we are looking at. So the alliance primarily is based on persons, regardless of whether you're PNM or UNC, regardless of whether you're ketchup or mustard. You may still be a member of those parties, but if it is that you can support something that is different, that is where the alliance will come in. I think there are many persons, especially with persons outside of the PNM and the UNC, they have this. There's going to be a lot of stroking of egos that I have to massage to ensure that you can build this. Because when you have that type of politics, everyone feels that they know what is right, because they are not boxed into the political leader. Where if they say jump, you ask how high. And that is where it is. This party, the value of this party is that we don't want what we have seen in the two parties before. One person is just calling the shots and everyone follows. That is what has caused the problem. So what we are going to have is, when we say alliance, Paul, we are talking about, I want to bring in the best minds available in the country to deal with finance, education, the economy, health, national security, sport, tourism, the industry, and get those persons together. Not one person who calls him or herself a prime minister. You go in cabinet and say, this must be done. Everybody will say yes. That is the type of politics we intend to change. And that is where the alliance comes in. Bridging the gap. If we can find good persons from
but Gary, not meaning to interrupt you, but that's how the Constitution sets up the position of the prime minister.
I know, but there's a difference, Richard. In leadership, you may be the prime minister that have that authority, but if you don't have that leadership ability to feel that if I speak, everyone must agree, then the country is going to fail, because the prime minister makes a statement in cabinet and everyone is in agreement because they don't want to shirk the prime minister. And that is what we do not want. That is what is killing our politics. I have seen it. I have seen it in cabinet. I have seen a cabinet meeting in a retreat. We say we're going to start the retreat in Tobago on a Wednesday. Everybody slams the table. Then she says, wait a minute, I have something to do. So we'll do it Friday instead. And everybody slams the table. And then I say, Prime Minister, this is a major retreat. And she said, yeah, let's go back to Wednesday. I do not want us to have a political party with yes people. I want to, at times, even when it comes to matters of interest in the country, I do not need to be the brightest person that makes the decision. That is where you're going to see a difference. When we intend to debate on all matters of affecting the country, we will take it and show that we are going to spend time in the 2 years or so before election, not in trying to destroy our political opponents, but to prepare for government. And that is what these parties have never done. They call something called a manifesto. That's irrelevant. That's a promissory note.
I am hearing you, Gary, and I know some people may have the fear. I guess some people may have the fear. I mean, at whatever position that you hold in this proposed political party, and let's assume its leader, that you may have autocratic tendencies, just as you accuse your predecessors. Because you're talking about the issue of yes men, people, debating. This is what you're talking about. You're saying the right words. You're saying, about debate and consensus and people having differing opinions and being willing to stand up to the leadership and say, no, this is wrong, and that the leader be willing to listen. But a lot of your previous verbal intercourse, seems to suggest otherwise as Commissioner of Police in terms of people.
And let me correct you now. Because of how I was trained as a leader to prepare for leadership, whether it is leaders in the defense force, in the police service, or even in our country, your leadership has to change based on the position that you hold, Richard. If it is that I am going into battle and the shots are being fired, the leadership that you show is not about charisma and trying to ask people what is your view about whether we go left or right to take out the enemy. You have to go very hard and very, very aggressive. When it is I was Minister of National Security, if you recall, for those 2 years, not once was there any conflict with anyone at all, because I was a statesman. I understood the type of leadership. People forget Gary Griffith as the Minister of National Security. At no time was I ever involved in any conflict, confrontation, or any issue. When you are Commissioner of Police, you have individuals, sometimes in the media, sometimes politicians, who are aided and abetted and part of the criminal activity. So you have to be very aggressive, and the results showed. Because my take is the mission, and to accomplish the mission. For us to have a country that was so riddled with crime, and then within my period, it was the highest reduction in crime in the history of this country, is because I took the fight to the criminals. You can't take fight to the criminals by trying to be passive, by trying to be diplomatic, by trying to be a statesman. So you can't use the Commissioner of Police as an avenue to understand my character and my leadership skill. You use it based on the results I had as a Commissioner of Police.
But then what you're suggesting there is that the means justifies the end, because if the objective is to reduce crime, it's you may be suggesting, can correct me if I'm wrong, that any avenue to achieve that objective is appropriate, and that is not so, because and I'm not saying that all your approaches were wrong, because you certainly got a lot of people in the country behind you and felt more confident in the police service. No one can deny that. The trust and confidence levels in the police service were up, but there were also some seeming knockoff effects, including some officers felt emboldened to go beyond the law.
Yeah, and Paul, and again, never before in the history of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service was so many police officers arrested, suspended, disciplined. So it was dealt with. It was never done before. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we had officers that were not even going to court. There was a 93% decrease in absenteeism because I started disciplining police officers. So even if you go down that road, we have shown, you speak to David West now, he will tell you never in the history of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service was there such good relationship with us and the PCA. So in the same manner that you speak about it, because before, when police officers were doing that, nothing will happen. There will be no liaison with the PCA. There will be no liaison with the DPP. Police officers will not be suspended, fired. It was the highest number of police officers arrested, suspended, and disciplined. So
looking back at your tenure as Commissioner of Police, because, I mean, you are now part of the consideration for leadership in the country. You just said so. A different type of position means a different type of leadership. Is there, as you undertake some level of introspection, a difference of approach that you when you look back, you thought, well, maybe I could have done X differently?
Well, everything in life, nobody is perfect, and everyone will make mistakes. What I am, though, I'm an emotional enhancer. With Gary, people like Stephen Williams and Jacobs, you're neither here nor there. With Gary Griffith, you either love him or you hate him. So I built, there's strong emotion. So 89% of the country said that they believe in Gary Griffith, they wanted me to return. 11% wish I was dead. They wish I could go to hell. So you will always have strong views and opinions of someone with that type of character like myself. If it is, I look back at the things that I would have done. Had I known that the 3 years would have ended, I would have moved at a much faster pace to ensure that there will be continuity in the things that I did. One of the things of a good leader is that when you leave, the standard continues. There was a dramatic decrease in crime every single month in the last 18 months under my watch. As soon as I left, is the highest spike in crime. So the one regret I have is not to have educated those persons in the hierarchy of the police service to understand it is not about Gary Griffith. It's about looking at the policies, the tools, the procedures that I had that was reducing crime. And now, unfortunately, that did not happen. So maybe I should have spent more time in trying to change the mindset of the higher echelon in the police service, just 1 or 2, because what they have done now is that Gary is not here. Let us shut down, dismantle, whether it is body cameras, whether it is IT equipment, whether it is the resort, every single thing that Gary did, we must destroy it. And it means that I did not spend enough time in that human resource management to train these individuals to understand it's not about Gary Griffith, it is about reducing crime. And the country is now paying the price for it. So maybe that was one thing.
As we wrap, can you confirm, because the acting commissioner of police confirmed that the equipment was bought from Intellexa. Can you confirm that? If not,
no, again, and I will reconfirm, unlike others, I may be a politician, but I'm very, very cognizant of the fact of what you can and cannot say. It is irresponsible for anyone, whether you're a politician or someone, to be able to state what it is that is being used. I have no intention. Paul, you will never hear this in any developed country. How could you expect me to reveal the type of equipment, what it is to be used, how it is to be used? That is irresponsible. What is important is to ensure that it is not going to be abused. And that is what we should really focus on, not the type of technology. I would not go down that road. I'm sorry.
Mr. Clifford, thank you for being with us this morning.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
All right, all the best to you. Thank you.
You froze twice with us. We had some technical issues that we do usually have with any other guest.
You don't normally get this.
Brothers watching.
Cyrotex Predator. Is it Cyrotex? What is it? What's the word?
I can't keep up.
I'm moving like Schultz. I know his